The last time I held my husband's hand, his skin felt cold, his voice faint, but his eyes were filled with a kind of fear I had never seen before. "Naomi," he whispered, struggling to breathe, "promise me one thing. Never go to that house. No matter what happens, never open its doors." His hand trembled as he gripped mine tighter, as if the strength of that promise was keeping him alive. I remember staring into his pale face, confused and terrified. "What house, David?" I asked. "The one in Lake Arrowhead," he said, his gaze distant, almost haunted. "You must never go there." Those were the last words my husband ever said to me. After his death, that promise haunted me more than his absence. It wasn't just grief that consumed me, it was the question behind his fear. Why would a man who loved me more than life itself forbid me from entering a place he owned? What could possibly be there that he didn't want me to see? The thought echoed through my mind every night as I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, hearing his voice over and over again, "Never open its doors." David and I were married for 17 years. He was calm, steady, and private, the kind of man who smiled more than he spoke. We had built a quiet, peaceful life together. And yet, behind that peace, there were things he never talked about. His childhood, his estranged brothers, and that hidden property in the mountains that I only learned about from a few passing remarks. It always felt like there was another part of David, a version of him that lived in shadows. The day after his funeral, the silence in our house was unbearable. Every room still carried his scent, the faint cologne he wore, the books he left half open on the nightstand, the jacket still hanging by the door. Grief can be cruel. It doesn't arrive all at once. It leaks into every moment, every thought. But amidst all that pain, curiosity began to bloom like a forbidden flower. Why did he own a house he never let me see? What was he hiding there? For months, I tried to ignore the thoughts. I kept myself busy with teaching, pretending life was normal. But late at night, when the world was quiet, I would find myself staring at the map, tracing the route to Lake Arrowhead, imagining the mysterious house waiting for me. And then one afternoon, a small box arrived at my door, no return address, just my name written in David's handwriting. My heart froze. Inside the box was a single antique key with a leaf-shaped keychain, and a note that read, "If you are reading this, my love, it means I'm gone. Forgive me for the things I never told you. The truth you're searching for lies beyond that door, the one I told you never to open. You deserve to know why." My knees went weak as I read those words. The man who once begged me to stay away was now telling me to go. It felt like his final test, a message from beyond the grave. I stared at the key, feeling its cold weight in my hand. Every part of me screamed to throw it away, but something stronger held me. Maybe love. Maybe curiosity. Maybe both. That night, I sat by the window watching the rain, the key glinting in the dim light. Every raindrop sounded like a whisper urging me to go. For years, I believed my husband was protecting me from that house. But now, a darker thought began to take root. What if he was protecting the house from me? The next morning, I packed my bag, slipped the key into my coat pocket, and whispered to the empty room, "I'm sorry, David, but I need to know." As I locked the door behind me and started the car, I felt something shift deep inside, a mix of fear, guilt, and anticipation. I didn't know it then, but that single decision, to break my husband's final promise, would uncover the most shocking truth of my life. Because what waited for me inside that secret house was something my husband never wanted anyone to find. 2 months passed after the funeral, but time did nothing to dull the ache. Grief had settled into every corner of my life like dust I couldn't wipe away. Then one morning, as I was grading papers at the kitchen table, my phone rang. It was David's lawyer, Mr. Harrison, a quiet, serious man with a voice that always sounded like it carried secrets. "Mrs. Sterling," he said, "your husband left something for you. He instructed that it should be delivered 2 months after his passing. Could you come to my office today?" My heart started to race. 2 months after his death? Why would David plan something so specific? When I arrived, the office smelled of polished wood and old paper. Mr. Harrison greeted me with the same solemn calm he had at the funeral. He gestured for me to sit, then slid a small velvet box and a sealed envelope across the desk. "These were among your husband's private files," he said. He left strict instructions. They were not to be opened until this exact date. The sight of David's handwriting on the envelope sent a shiver through me. Every curve of each letter was familiar, intimate. I opened it carefully, afraid my trembling hands might tear it. Inside was a letter written in blue ink, his handwriting, firm but slightly uneven, as if he'd written it in his final days. "My dearest Naomi, if you are reading this, it means I've gone sooner than I planned. I know you promised to stay away from the house, but I am asking you to break that promise. The truth is buried there, not to hurt you, but to free you. Inside the study, on the desk, you'll find my laptop. The password is the date of our first meeting, followed by the word hope. Remember that word, Naomi. It's what you gave me when I had none left. I love you more than you will ever understand. David." My eyes blurred with tears. Hope. That word had always been his symbol for us, for how we survived the storms of life together. And now, from beyond the grave, he was guiding me with it again. I opened the small box next. Inside lay a heavy antique key with an intricate leaf-shaped keychain, the same one I had found in the first package weeks ago. "What is this key for?" I asked quietly. Mr. Harrison adjusted his glasses. "It belongs to a property in Lake Arrowhead. Your husband purchased it about 4 years ago, but he left instructions that you were not to know about it until his passing." My pulse quickened. "The house. The one he told me to stay away from," Mr. Harrison continued. "He called it the Crestwood Estate. Apparently, it once belonged to his family. He reacquired it privately. But there's something else. His brothers have been in contact with our office. They're contesting the will, claiming David wasn't mentally capable when he made the purchase." I looked up sharply. "That's absurd." My husband was sharp, rational, and kind, until the very end. "I don't doubt that," Mr. Harrison said softly. "But his brothers are persistent. The property is now extremely valuable. Summit Resorts, a major developer, is building a luxury resort nearby. They've already made multi-million-dollar offers for your husband's land. Whoever owns that estate stands to gain a fortune." For a long moment, the room was silent except for the faint ticking of the office clock. I sat there, staring at the key, feeling as if the world had tilted slightly out of place. Why had David hidden something so huge? Why tell me never to go there, only to reveal everything after his death? I stood up, clutching the key in my fist. "Mr. Harrison," I said, my voice firmer than I expected, "I need to see that house." He frowned slightly. "Mrs. Sterling, I must advise caution. There's a legal dispute pending, and David's family—" "I don't care," I interrupted. "Whatever secrets that place holds, I deserve to know them. My husband wanted me to see it. And I will." I left the office with the letter pressed against my heart and the key burning cold in my palm. As I walked into the bright afternoon sunlight, I could almost hear David's voice whispering from somewhere far away, "Forgive me, Naomi. But some truths can only be seen when the door finally opens." That night, I packed my car, tracing the route to Lake Arrowhead on my phone. The map showed a narrow mountain road winding through the forest, isolated, silent, forgotten. As the engine started, a strange calm settled over me. Fear, curiosity, love, they all blended into one unstoppable force. By dawn, I was on my way to the house my husband had sworn me to avoid, the house that would soon change everything I believed about him, and about myself. The road to Lake Arrowhead felt endless, twisting through mountains and fog like a path leading straight into another life. The farther I drove, the heavier the silence became. It wasn't just the emptiness of the forest around me, it was the weight of everything I didn't know about my husband. Every turn of the wheel felt like I was unwrapping a secret he had wrapped in layers of fear. By the time I reached the carved wooden gate that read Crestwood Estate, the morning sun was just beginning to burn through the mist. The place didn't look abandoned, it looked guarded, as if time itself had been keeping it safe. My hands trembled as I fit the antique key into the lock. The iron groaned, the gate opened, and there it was, the house I was never supposed to see. I had expected a small retreat cabin, something old and worn. But what stood before me was a masterpiece, a grand stone mansion with ivy climbing its walls, surrounded by perfect gardens and oak trees that looked older than memory. The air smelled of pine and rain. Even from the driveway, I could see how meticulously everything had been kept. Someone had cared for this place, recently. When I stepped inside, the air was cold and still, like a church before prayer. I froze. Every wall, every corner, every hallway, filled with paintings. Dozens, maybe hundreds of them. And every painting was of orchids. Blue orchids, white orchids, rare hybrids I had spent years studying and growing myself. It was as if someone had taken my private passion and turned it into a cathedral of color. My heart began to pound. David knew how much I loved orchids. He had always supported my little greenhouse, bought me seeds, and smiled when I spent hours tending to them. But this was obsession. A tribute. Every brushstroke seemed to whisper my name. And then I saw it, on a wooden table near the window, surrounded by sunlight. A silver laptop. Its lid was closed, but on top of it sat a single white orchid, perfectly alive, perfectly placed. I reached out to touch it, and froze again. Outside, the sound of tires crunching over gravel broke the silence. My stomach tightened. Through the window, a black SUV pulled up behind my car. 3 men stepped out, tall, well-dressed, and familiar. Even from a distance, I recognized David's face in each of them. His brothers, Marcus, Elijah, and Isaiah. The same men who had been fighting over the will. My pulse thundered in my ears. How did they even know I was here? They approached with the casual arrogance of men who believed they were walking toward what belonged to them. I backed away from the window as Marcus, the eldest, started pounding on the front door. Mrs. Sterling. His voice echoed through the house. We know you're in there. We need to talk. Talk. That word sounded like a threat. I stayed silent, moving deeper into the house, every instinct screaming at me to protect what was inside. David had warned me about his family. He never told me details, only that they were capable of cruelty disguised as charm. The pounding grew louder. Naomi. Marcus called again, his tone sharp. We're your husband's family. You don't want to make this difficult. I turned toward the table where the laptop sat waiting, silent, patient, like it had been expecting this exact moment. I remembered the letter. The password is the date of our first meeting, followed by hope. With shaking hands, I opened the laptop and typed, October 12 th 96 hope. The screen blinked to life, and a single folder appeared, titled, For Naomi. The pounding continued outside, but I barely heard it. I clicked the folder. The screen filled with dozens of video files, each one dated, each labeled by day. My breath caught as I opened the first one. And then I saw him. David's face filled the screen, alive, healthy, smiling in that crooked way that used to make me laugh. Hello, my love, he said, his voice soft and full of warmth. If you're watching this, it means I'm gone, and it also means you didn't listen. He chuckled softly, shaking his head. I told Mr. Harrison you'd come here. You never could resist a mystery, could you? Tears stung my eyes. Even through the screen, it felt like he was right there in front of me. I made these videos for you, he continued, one for every day of your first year without me. There's so much I never told you. Things I should have said. But first, I need you to understand why I bought this house back. The house I swore I'd never return to. Outside, the knocking stopped. Through the window, I saw the brothers standing by their car, talking in low voices. One of them pulled out papers, legal documents. I turned back to the laptop, my hands trembling, my heart trapped between grief and fear. David's voice was calm but heavy. There are things about my family, Naomi, that I've hidden, not to protect myself, but to protect you. And now, you're standing in the middle of the truth I spent a lifetime running from. The screen flickered slightly as he leaned closer, his expression darkening. But don't be afraid. I prepared for this. Everything you'll need to understand, and to survive, is inside this house. The video ended. Silence filled the room again. Outside, the brothers were pacing. Inside, my husband's secrets were coming to life one by one. And for the first time since his death, I wasn't just grieving him. I was beginning to realize. I had never truly known him at all. I sat frozen in front of the laptop, staring at my husband's face glowing softly on the screen. He looked healthy, vibrant, alive, so different from the pale man I had buried only months before. If you're watching this, he said, smiling faintly, it means I'm gone, and it means you broke your promise. He chuckled quietly, and for a heartbeat, I forgot he was gone. His voice felt too close, too real. I always knew your curiosity would win, he continued. But that's all right. You were always meant to find this place. My throat tightened. Outside, I could still see the three brothers pacing near their SUV, occasionally glancing toward the house. David's eyes flickered on the screen, as if he could see them too. Before you open the rest of these videos, he said, you need to know why I bought this house back. And why I begged you to stay away. He paused, inhaling deeply. 3 years ago, I was diagnosed with a cerebral aneurysm, an inherited condition. The doctors gave me 2 to 5 years. I chose not to tell you or Chloe. I couldn't bear to see the fear in your eyes every day. I wanted our last years to feel normal. My hand flew to my mouth. The room began to blur. He knew. All those strange moments, the late nights, the long business trips, the sudden bursts of energy followed by exhaustion, it all made sense now. David's voice softened. I know you're angry. You should be. I took away your chance to say goodbye properly. But I wanted to live, Naomi, not die in front of you piece by piece. That's why I came back to this house. To rebuild something beautiful out of the ruins of my childhood. He looked around, the camera following his movement as he gestured at the room behind him. Every corner you see was designed for you. The orchids, the light, the quiet, it's your sanctuary now. Tears ran down my cheeks. Even in death, he had found a way to speak to me, gently, with purpose. But then his expression hardened. There's something else, he said, voice lowering. You've probably already met my brothers. Be careful with them. They don't come for love or closure. They come for money. For years they mocked me for buying this property. But after the developer announced their resort project, they realized how valuable it was. Now, they'll do anything to take it from you. Outside, one of the men pulled out his phone. I watched from the window as they began making calls, their gestures sharp, impatient. David's warning felt alive in the air. In the bottom drawer of the desk, he continued, you'll find a blue folder. Inside it are all the documents proving the house is legally yours, every deed, receipt, and notarized transfer. I made sure of it. I turned instinctively toward the desk beside me. My hands shook as I pulled open the drawer. The blue folder was there, thick, organized, and sealed with his handwriting. Naomi, David said, softer now. You can sell it if you wish, or keep it as your home. But whatever you do, don't let them take what I built for you. I didn't just restore a house, I restored what they tried to destroy in me. A loud knock jolted me out of the trance. "Mrs. Sterling." A voice boomed from outside. "This is Officer Davis with the county department. Please open the door." I hesitated. Through the window, I saw a police cruiser parked behind the SUV. The brothers were standing beside the officer, holding papers. I quickly closed the laptop and clutched the blue folder to my chest before walking to the door. The moment I opened it, Marcus was already talking. "Officer, this property was acquired under questionable circumstances. We have a right to inspect it." I looked at the officer, steadying my breath. "This is my husband's property," I said calmly. "And now it's mine. I have the documentation right here." I handed him the folder, praying David's careful preparation was enough. The officer flipped through the pages silently for several minutes. Finally, he looked up, nodding. "These appear to be in order. You gentlemen will need to resolve any claims through civil court. There's no basis for an inspection today." Marcus's jaw tightened. Elijah muttered something under his breath. Isaiah looked away. For the first time, I saw cracks in their confidence. "Have a good day, officer," I said, closing the door slowly. When the sound of their car faded down the gravel road, I let out the breath I'd been holding. I turned back to the laptop, my pulse still racing. The screen had gone dark, but David's last words lingered in my mind like an echo. "The truth you're looking for isn't just about me, Naomi. It's about what comes next. Open the next video when you're ready. But be warned, the past has claws." I stared at the black screen for a long time before whispering, "I'm ready." But deep down, I wasn't sure if that was true. That night, I barely slept. Every creak of the old house made my chest tighten, and the shadows in the hallways seemed alive with things David had never told me. His video still echoed in my mind. The past has claws. By morning, my curiosity burned hotter than fear. I had to keep going. The sun had just started to rise when I opened the next video. David appeared in the library this time, sitting where I now sat. His voice was calm but filled with purpose. "Good morning, my love. If you've made it this far, then you've already faced my brothers. You've seen what they're capable of. But there's more you need to know, something I couldn't tell you while I was alive." He glanced off camera, as though making sure he was alone. "There's a woman who helped me rebuild this place. Her name is Miss Jackson. She's trustworthy. If she's still here, listen to her." Almost on cue, a soft knock echoed from the hallway. My heart jumped. I paused the video and turned toward the sound. "Mrs. Sterling?" A woman's voice called gently. I stepped into the corridor and saw a middle-aged woman standing near the conservatory door, holding a tray of tea. "I'm Miss Jackson. Your husband asked me to take care of the orchids, and of you if you ever came." I felt my throat tighten. "You knew him well?" She smiled faintly. "As well as he allowed anyone to. He was here almost every month for years, even during his illness. He poured everything into this place." I followed her into the conservatory, and the sight took my breath away. Morning light filtered through the glass ceiling, illuminating hundreds of orchids in full bloom, purple, gold, white, even a rare blue that shimmered like moonlight. The air was thick with fragrance. "Your husband spent years collecting them," Miss Jackson said softly. "He said every flower here represented a memory of you." Tears filled my eyes. "He never told me any of this." Miss Jackson hesitated. "He told me not to speak of it unless it became absolutely necessary, but now I think it is." She led me past rows of blossoms toward the back of the conservatory, where a small door blended into the wall. "He built something hidden here," she whispered. "After his brother's first visit last year, he said he needed a place no one could find." The door led to a small shed, old, rustic, dusty. Miss Jackson moved aside a few wooden crates and pulled an iron key from her pocket. "He told me you'd need this." My hands shook as I unlocked the heavy padlock. Inside, the air was cool and smelled of damp stone. At first, it looked like nothing more than storage. Rakes, shovels, old equipment, but then Miss Jackson pushed aside a stack of boxes, revealing a square panel in the floor. A trapdoor. "What is this?" I whispered. "Your husband called it the vault," she said quietly. "But I call it genius." She heaved the door open, and a rush of cold air rose from below. A steel ladder led into darkness. I hesitated for only a moment before climbing down. The light above grew smaller until Miss Jackson joined me and flipped a hidden switch. Fluorescent lights blinked on, illuminating a long concrete tunnel. At the end of the tunnel was a chamber filled with file cabinets, computer equipment, and a large wooden table covered in papers and maps. The walls were lined with charts, legal documents, photographs, and notes written in David's handwriting. "This," Miss Jackson said, "is where your husband fought his quiet war." I moved closer to one of the maps. Red lines circled parts of Lake Arrowhead, with annotations about land values and construction phases. A massive area labeled Summit Resorts, Phase 2, overlapped the edge of our property. "What am I looking at?" I asked. "The developer's real plan," she explained. "They've told the public it's a small resort, but your husband discovered internal documents proving the project is 3 times larger, and your property blocks their expansion. Without Crestwood, the entire plan collapses." I stared at the map, realization dawning like fire. So that's why his brothers are desperate to take it. They want to sell it to the developers. Miss Jackson nodded. "Exactly. And David knew it. That's why he gathered all this evidence." She opened a thick folder filled with financial records, emails, and sworn statements. He compiled proof of his brother's crimes: tax evasion, insider trading, embezzlement. If they ever tried to steal from you, this information would destroy them. I sat down, overwhelmed. David had built an entire underground fortress of truth, his final defense to protect me. "He thought of everything," I murmured. "Not everything," Miss Jackson said softly. "He didn't expect them to go after your daughter." I froze. "Chloe." She nodded grimly. "They've been calling her. They told her you're keeping secrets, that she deserves her father's share. They're trying to turn her against you." I felt the blood drain from my face. The anger that rose inside me wasn't fear anymore. It was purpose. Then they're about to learn they chose the wrong woman to manipulate. Miss Jackson's expression softened with quiet admiration. "Your husband said the same thing, that you were stronger than you believed." I looked around the vault, his maps, his files, his handwriting. Every inch of this place was proof that David had prepared for war. Now it was my turn to finish it. I placed my hand on the map, tracing the boundary of our land. "They think I'm just a grieving widow," I said quietly. "They have no idea what's coming." Miss Jackson smiled faintly. "What will you do?" "Exactly what David taught me," I said. "Stay calm, stay smart, and strike when they least expect it." As we climbed back up the ladder, the air above felt different, lighter somehow, charged with purpose. The woman who entered that vault had been broken by grief. The one who emerged was ready for battle. And somewhere deep in my heart, I could almost hear David's voice again, steady and sure. "Now you know everything, Naomi. It's your turn." 2 days later, the storm I'd been expecting arrived. Not the kind that comes with rain, but the kind that comes with family and greed. By the time I heard the sound of engines rolling down the gravel road, I already knew who it was. The Sterling brothers, Marcus, Elijah, and Isaiah, stepped out of their SUV dressed in suits, polished and false. And standing beside them, to my heartbreak, was Chloe. My daughter. My only child. She looked hesitant but determined, clutching her phone like a lifeline. Marcus rested a paternal hand on her shoulder, pretending to be the caring uncle. "Naomi," he said as they reached the porch, "we need to talk. As a family." Family. The word twisted like a knife. I didn't let them in immediately. "Chloe, what are you doing here?" I asked. She shifted uncomfortably. "They called me. They said there were things Dad never told us, that I deserved to know the truth." "Truth," I said quietly. "You think they came here for the truth?" Marcus stepped forward smoothly. "Naomi, we all know David wasn't well toward the end. He made rash choices. We're not here to fight, just to fix what he broke." "Fix," I repeated, my voice low. "The only thing broken here is your conscience." He smiled, patient and false. "Let's not make this emotional. We have a reasonable proposal. 1/3 of the estate for you, 1/3 for Chloe, and 1/3 divided among us. Everyone wins." Elijah opened a leather folder, revealing neatly typed contracts. "All legal and binding, Mrs. Sterling. You'll walk away with more than enough to live comfortably." Chloe's voice wavered. "Mom, maybe we should consider it. It's a lot of money." I felt my heart crack, but I didn't let it show. "And what about what your father wanted?" I asked softly. "What about his promise to us?" Marcus's patience evaporated. "Your husband wasn't thinking clearly," he snapped. "He was dying. You can't seriously believe this." But I interrupted him, my tone calm and cold. "I believe my husband knew exactly what he was doing. And I can prove it." From the corner of my eye, I saw Miss Jackson appear silently in the doorway, a quiet guardian at my side. "If you have any doubts," she said, addressing the brothers, "Mr. David left something for his wife and for his daughter." Chloe looked at me, confused. "What is she talking about?" "Come with me," I said. I walked to the study, opened the laptop, and pulled up a file titled, "For Chloe, when she needs it." I handed her the screen. David's face appeared, younger and full of life. "Hello, my brilliant girl," he said warmly. "If you're watching this, I'm gone. And knowing you, you're probably angry that I kept secrets. But I need you to listen carefully. My brothers are not who they pretend to be. They hurt me long before you were born, and they'll hurt you if you trust them." Chloe's eyes filled with tears as she watched him describe their fraud, their deceit, the inheritance they stole from him when he was 19. "They used my name on forged documents," David said in the video. "When I threatened to expose them, they threatened to ruin me. I walked away and built a life with your mother instead, a life based on truth. That's why I kept them away. Protect her, Chloe. Protect yourself." By the time the video ended, the room was silent. Chloe wiped her tears, her jaw set. "You lied to me," she whispered to Marcus. "You all lied." Marcus tried to recover. "Your father exaggerated." "Enough," I said sharply. "You came here expecting to find a grieving widow you could intimidate. But what you found is a woman your brother prepared for battle." Elijah straightened his tie. "Naomi, this doesn't have to get ugly." "It already is," I replied. "And since you brought contracts, I have something better." I opened the drawer and pulled out the folder from the vault, David's meticulous documentation of their crimes. "You recognize these, don't you?" I asked, spreading the papers across the desk. "Your old investment firm records, tax filings, and bank transfers. My husband kept everything. He knew you'd come for this house, and he made sure you'd regret it." Isaiah paled. "You wouldn't." "Oh, I would," I said evenly. "And so would the IRS, the media, and every client you've ever cheated. Unless you want those copies delivered by morning, you'll leave this property now." Chloe stepped closer to me, her voice firm. My mother's right. You're not family. You're thieves. The tension in the room was thick enough to cut. Marcus's jaw tightened, his mask slipping for the first time. You think this is over? He hissed. You have no idea how powerful the people behind this resort are. Maybe not, I said, holding his gaze. But I have something they don't. Proof. And you'd be wise to remember that before making your next move. They left without another word, fury in every step. As their SUVs disappeared down the drive, Chloe turned to me, trembling. Mom, they'll come back. Yes, I said quietly. But next time, we'll be ready. That night, as the house settled into silence again, I looked at the orchid-filled conservatory glowing softly in the moonlight. David had fought his battle in secret. I would fight mine in the open. I sat down at the desk, opened the laptop, and pressed play on the next video. David's face appeared again, his expression serious. They won't stop after the first loss, he said. But neither will you. When the time comes, you'll know who to call. There's a name in the last folder, the one marked Summit. They think they're hunters, Naomi. But they've never met you. His eyes lifted toward the camera, as though he could see me. Finish what I started, my love. Make sure this house stands for something greater than revenge. Make it stand for truth. I whispered back to the empty room. I will. Weeks passed after the confrontation, but peace didn't come easily. The brothers disappeared into silence, yet I knew they were still out there, circling like wolves, waiting for weakness. But this time, I wasn't afraid. The truth had changed me. The woman who once trembled at secrets now stood guard over them. With Miss Jackson's help, I went through every file in the vault, organizing David's research into folders marked Justice, Family, and Future. His evidence didn't just protect me, it protected everyone who might one day face the same greed he did. I sent copies of his documents to our lawyer, securing every inch of the property under my name and Chloe's. For the first time since his death, I felt like I was doing more than surviving. I was finishing what he started. Chloe stayed at the house for weeks afterward. We talked for hours every night, about her father, about the lies she'd been told, about forgiveness. One evening, as we stood in the conservatory surrounded by the orchids David had grown for us, she whispered, "You were right, Mom. He was protecting us the whole time." I smiled through tears. He always was. Outside, the sky was streaked with gold and violet. The light poured through the glass ceiling, bathing the flowers in a soft glow. For a moment, I could almost feel David's presence, quiet, steady, and proud. I opened the final video on the laptop. David appeared older this time, his face thin but peaceful. "If you've come this far, Naomi, it means you won," he said, smiling faintly. "And I knew you would. You always saw the light in places where others only saw walls. That's why I built this house, not as a cage for secrets, but as a sanctuary for truth." He paused, his eyes glistening. "When I was a boy, my father used to say that every house holds two things, memory and choice. The memory of what built it, and the choice of what it will stand for next. This one now belongs to you. Choose well." He leaned forward, his voice tender. "And tell Chloe I'm proud of her. Tell her that no matter how far she goes, this house will always be home." The video ended, leaving me in silence, the kind of silence that feels like peace. I walked outside to the garden. The air smelled of pine and earth, and the orchids glowed softly under the lantern light. I picked one, a white orchid, David's favorite, and placed it beside his photograph on the porch table. "You kept your promise," I whispered. "Now it's my turn." Chloe joined me, slipping her hand into mine. "What will we do with the house, Mom?" I looked out over the mountains, the mist curling around the trees like breath. "We'll open it," I said. Not as a secret anymore, but as a place where truth and kindness can grow. Maybe a refuge. Maybe an art center. Something that means something. Miss Jackson smiled softly from the doorway. He'd like that. I know, I said. That night, I stood by the window watching the lights of Lake Arrowhead shimmer below. The pain of loss was still there, but it no longer felt heavy. It felt like a heartbeat, a reminder that love doesn't end, it only changes shape. As the clock struck midnight, I whispered to the quiet house, "Good night, David. I hope you can finally rest." And maybe, somewhere beyond the veil of life and death, he smiled back. If this story touched your heart, share it with someone who believes in love that never fades. Broken Heart Sparkles. Tell us in the comments, would you have opened that door? And don't forget to subscribe for more mysterious, emotional life stories that remind us how powerful truth and love can be. Dove.